Hey guys, it's Kuzi. This episode is one for you. Yes, I see you sneaky little wombats only showing up on my pain. With insanely annoying affixes to encounter this week, this will be a full-blown dungeon episode again. Also, we got buff, baby. Uldaman does more healing now, but as far as my Mistweaver noob brain can tell, I'd like the Chi Cocoon's absorb increase the most. Now I technically could use either Uldaman or GG in advance in order to pretend some incoming damage. No extra information, but we got one goal in mind. Do as many 15s as possible in order to increase score, get some potential items and also some worm crests to upgrade our gear furthermore. I managed to spam hella dungeons already, but there's one little thing before we start. Since it has been reset day, we got ourselves some earned item from our vault. The weekly event quest is not for us because it's the battleground happy hour. And while we got ourselves 3 right item slots along with the 3 mythic plus options, I really hope for a banger. Of course I would love Neltharus Call to Dominance to be in there. I just hope it's not a Biz item in the first slot, since I would absolutely regret that I didn't go for a 16 last week. Ah shit. While Ransom is not a bad trinket, I feel like the Alchemist Stone does sort of the same thing, and I'd replace it with the mentioned Neltharus trinket anyways. Seal of Questionable Loyalties, however, would be a Biz item due to its stats. None of the right item is a banger, so I most likely will go with the ring. If I did a 16, I could upgrade this to 447. That's a big satch. Ah well, you live you learn. Our first key this episode is an Underrot 15 and... Hold up, Underrot? Oh come on, Kuzi, you dumbass. Wonder how that will go. Pretty smooth actually, believe it or not. I swapped back to fist weaving after the last video to find out that this week seems to be horrible for healing in melee. First you got storming to deal with, which lets little tornadoes spawn around enemies that will knock you up, and because those things are mobile, they are hella annoying. And just to spit in the face of every healer, you got bursting to deal with. That thing does a stacking debuff whenever a mob dies. So if the DPS really dislike the healer, things can get funky. So like mentioned, this was one of the more chill runs of this week. So far no one died due to my misplay, but rather cause they got one shot. So I honestly had my hands full on Crackmon. I was occasionally really surprised by the amount of healing Mistweaver can pump as well, considering I was anxious about it in the last episode. And because of all the trauma Underrot forced upon me, I never expected third boss to go well anymore. The party tried their best to get rid of the shrooms, but they couldn't quite get the job done. But because we learned from before, we know that we can just take care of the first set of debuffs with revival. And seeing the paladin panic horsing, is that even a word, towards the shrooms to cleanse them with bubble, made me giggle a lot. Almost thinking, you don't even know my real powers. 6 stacks from the festering harvest and I was so damn ready I dispelled it in a heartbeat. The paladin was probably like, what? Really anxious about the last pack of the dungeon, I was praying to every lord there is for this to go well. And it seems like somebody listened to those. Because there were no mess ups since the Crackman room, we had almost 10 minutes to go and even more than 3 minutes to 2 chesters. And besides the fact that you need to constantly check your position on this boss, I really tried to time certain cooldowns proper here. Using Shaylun's gift to top the party after an expulsion, as well as using GG on cooldown, while also making sure I keep a rival, just in case we need to get rid of the debuff. But we played this really nice overall, so we add 84 score to our name. Next we got ourselves another 15, Neltharus this time. And boy can I tell you, this was stressful. The tank seems to be some retired MDI participant, or at least he wanted to make posts like that. With the ridiculous amount of damage incoming from both bursting as well as the random debuffs from the mobs, I had to spam my stuff till there's no tomorrow. And then I even got called out for not using the chains. Sorry brother, was kind of busy dying over here. Thinking that now at least we are going to play it more chill, because there aren't any chains around, I got dropkicked to reality real quick. Just another gigapole, and because I had absolutely no cooldowns to use here, I couldn't handle the bursting. And that dude just kept going and going and going and going. I was already burnt out on the first boss of this dungeon. No idea what people need to make this so insanely stressful, but I can tell that this is a good reason why a lot of people don't play healer as well. And even though this is challenging and surely you get better from this, I completely get that the majority of players just don't want to sweat on every damn key. And then I even got completely ass blasted by the boss. You see here, the boss used his charge ability, but there is no Casper under him. So I assumed the rogue cancelled the thing by using Vanish or something, yet it still went off. To show you what I mean, this is how it usually looks. Game just hates me, man. After we beat Kakma Tusk, we went to the more fun part of the dungeon again. Loads of chains to use. So let's pull them all. Keep in mind, when you're doing this, every mob will trigger bursting, and even with the rival, I couldn't save them all. I was absolutely not enjoying this whatsoever. You know the saying, pressure makes diamonds? I was more like this. Crumbled, flattened, humbled, and sweaty. Second boss down, you know what it means. Another chain run. Ooh, yeah, excited for that. Granted, I used my GG a bit too early here, and I probably could have made this a bit smoother, but this marked the first chain pull that no one died. And because mana is for the weak, they all just left me to continue pulling. At this point, I was almost sliding down my chair because of all the sweat I was just shooting out at this point. Or maybe it's just from all the tears I've cried in pain during this. Do you remember the first day of work after you got out of school? Where you really didn't want to be there and just check the clock every few minutes till it's over? Yeah, that was me. I told myself only one more pack while on this boss so many times. And what a pack it was. Granted, the idea was pretty good. Putting the annoying gatekeeper pack to the chains is actually very smart. But then we lost some time due to some wonky stuff. Because instead of just using Shroud, a few of them pulled the mobs, which forced me to wait until someone actually comes to pick me up. After waiting almost 2 minutes for my escort, in form of a mass stealth, we faced up on the last boss with more than 2 minutes and 2 chesters. And in barely 1 minute we killed it, granting us not only 83 rating, but also an offhand with biz stats. And if you remember, we already got ourselves a main hand with biz stats earlier. So as soon as I can afford to upgrade them, we can use them for sure. I'd like to quickly remind you that if you enjoyed this video so far, why don't you consider to like or even subscribe to the channel. It is for free and would mean the world to me. And with that, back to the video. Uldaman 15 was next on the list, and honestly after the stressful run, I decided to give the caster build another go in this scenario. Because having to watch out for any cleaves, as well as tornadoes, as well as my party health bars, I considered a more approachable route. And I absolutely forget how hard this trash hits here. I almost used my 1 minute cooldown on every pack, and I needed it too. But fortunately our tank had my mana bar in his interface, so he gave me a second to catch a breath. And because it's not tyrannical, the dwarves were easy going. So let's get back to the trash pulls. Oh, and if you wonder why I still use spinning crank kick every now and then, even though I'm not fist weaving, it's mainly to apply mystic touch to the enemies. The same goes for rising sun kick. I still try to use it as often as possible, because the ability not only applies a renewing mist to a teammate, but also lowers the cooldown of a rival by 1 second due to uplifting spirits. Bromak again is only dangerous when a totem is up, so focusing my heals on that moment was the key to play this. And because Shannon's gift is absolutely poppin', we can use that on almost full stacks every totem phase. Talondos is next, and here we focus on the Earthen Shard, as well as sealing the party up before the stomp. But because again this is not tyrannical, we easily deal with the mechanics. What also helped a lot is that the tank just permanently stunned the boss. That means a lot less damage came onto us. And because bosses are so easy this week, trash hits like hell. Again, another pull where so much damage was coming in that it overwhelms me more often than I'm comfortable with. If you're not prepped proper, they will punish. On Emberon I goofed. Horribly. Because I stared too much at the party frames, I only moved with my peripheral vision, and because goddamn everything in here is orange, I slipped. Fortunately we had a CR, so we moved. Until our tank also slipped on the intermission phase. Happens to the best of us, man. Another CR used and we continue our way. If you happen to tank the next few trash drops in your life, make sure you tank them close to a pillar or a corner, so one could hide from the thunderous claps. Matter of fact, this position here to tank the 2 of them is pretty garbage. So I gave up on using LOS to my advantage and just healed through it. After reaching 100% trash count, I assumed we would just skip the last mobs before the final boss, but Big DH boy had different plans. So obviously, I panicked already. When will I use my cooldowns here? when it's the right time for revival, all of these thoughts just rushed through me while I was randomly dispelling. But almost 100k HPS later, we managed to get through them. Still, almost 3 minutes to also touch this bad boy, surely this was in the bag. And even though absolutely no one potentially used something like Ghost Wolf or Freedom, looking at you melee gang, we killed it already, adding another 51 rating to an overall 1740. The next dungeon is a Freehold 14. Yes, sadly it was only a 14, but that was legit the only one that took me when I was applying to keys. And on this one, I facepumped myself quite often. We had a handful of deaths, and disregarding the one-shots, the amount of times my party died without using any cooldowns to potentially prevent it was insane. This sort of peaked when clearing trash around the second boss. Because our tank decided it's a good idea to pull 2 packs together, and the DPS went along to kill them all at the same time. They just wouldn't stop killing, so the stacks kept going and going. I only survived because I used diffuse magic to dispel myself, and even though I could have dispelled someone else, I was fine with letting them all die for this. Let's see who else used anything. The Hunter could have turtled to prevent gaining stacks, the Paladin could have bubbled to remove stacks, and the Shaman couldn't dispel himself but maybe could have used his only death cooldown in order to prevent 40% of the damage. After the second boss we went right into another wonky pool. Here the Hunter thought it's a good idea to just send it, even though he could have used either Misdirect, Feign Death, or Turtle to survive this. He chose Death, and as you may guess, things didn't get any better. Since the tank decided to just YOLO jump into the next pack while half of the group was still dealing with the current pack. Obvious conclusion? Death. And then he just raced in there again. Which led to us somehow adding the patrol below the bridge. Another wipe. I was losing my motivation just because I felt that I played with 4 absolute knobs, and it only pushed my frustration when I wanted to stay away from the mob that targets me, while getting grappled into the trash pack, into an auto attack of the mentioned mob, into a tornado, into another melee hit. Build meter was already on the edge. Luckily Shark Boy went normally, so we went our way to the last set of trash. Considering we have over 20 deaths, we are still pretty decent on time. Guess that's the plus side when you play with players that only smash the damage meter but don't do anything else. After I got finally freed from this place by killing the final boss, even the 65 rating couldn't cheer me up. The final dungeon was a 15 VP, though this is not entirely true. You see, here is what happens. The first part of the dungeon took very long. So long in fact that the Hunter complains about the lacking damage from the mage and instantly leaves the party. But then the mage came back because apparently he had to go AFK due to a package delivery. We all agreed he's a knobhead, and because we are all nice guys, we stayed for the 14. So 14 VP it is. And besides those small drags in there, I had no issue playing the game at all. Which maybe also was because the tank didn't pull many things at once. So at the big drag, I was losing my mind. But this time because of myself. The amount of times I just didn't walk away after being knocked, which led me to be knocked up again, was incredible. And again, I tunneled on the HP bars instead of moving to the side first. Luckily, me losing every 1v1 against the tornadoes didn't end up in anything dramatic, so we moved. Shortly before arriving at the easily most annoying trash group in here, I saw that we actually lusted the boss. When you're unfortified, don't do that. Go for the final pack with lust instead. When it comes to damage, this pack has 2 mobs that do an AoE stump, which is rough to heal up. Furthermore, because we always had at least one rallying cry go through, those mobs always had 50% more HP for the entire fight. Please consider the kick there. This fight went on for so long, I had Yulon back up. As you can tell, with only 1 death and yet only 5 minutes remaining to time this, we weren't the quickest. But hey, 86 rating for this one means we are only 109 rating away from KSM. And with that, we end our 5th episode of the Zero to Hero journey. Not much in our gear had changed, sadly, and even though I was anticipating this week because of the melee ethics and the healer ethics, this was a rough one so far. Though I already recorded a few more dungeons already, and let me tell you, I got the juicer for you next episode. And because it saved my ass countless times this episode, if you are still here, type me some diffuse magic OP in the comments. As always, I wish you the most fantastic day whenever you see this, and I will catch you in the next one. Also, here's a quick teaser for you, since you're still here. I hate myself.